Hello, hello, gorgeous NFA money mamas. It's time for another Biz Breakdown session on the Women Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm so excited this week. You all know how much I love to connect with people through podcasting, and I got to meet this rock star woman entrepreneur through a mutual podcasting coach that we both love. We were actually on his show together. He does a really cool group thing that actually I'm going to be bringing onto our podcast soon. And, we were talking through the chat and we're like, oh yeah, let's hang out together. And so she's on for a Biz Breakdown session today to not only help you and share her wealth of knowledge with you, and also to ask questions about how to scale her business more effectively. So you always know that these Biz Breakdown sessions are your place to come and listen to other women's journeys of building their businesses, any struggles or stuck points they have, and then also tips and advice for you to help you grow your business more effectively. So that's what we're going to break down this week for our Biz Breakdown session with Shannon Russell, who is the founder of Second Act Success. Welcome to the Biz Breakdown session today, Shannon.
Thank you, Amanda. It's so nice to be here with you guys.
Yay! This is awesome. And, real quick backstory for everyone. We tried to do this, it was a couple weeks ago, and my computer completely pooped out. Like, I've never had this before where we got on StreamYard and the camera was black. And I was like, this isn't going to work. And we tried everything and we had to reschedule. So it's, sometimes in the online business building journey, that's the things that happen and you got to be adaptable. So it's awesome that we finally got to be together. And I always assume that means that something wasn't aligned for that day.
Yes, I think you're right. This is going to be a much better conversation than last time would have been.
Absolutely. All right. I always love to start with this. So if I could give you a magic wand and you could create whatever you choose to create in your business between now and the end of 2023, what would that be?
Ooh, that would be... That would be a membership, which I've been toying with that idea, but a membership where women who are struggling to change careers and leave maybe something that they're currently in, they're feeling stuck, can change and have that support of others. So really just to have that kind of community where you can go and speak to others. So to have that all wrapped up with a bow would be great.
Okay. Wrapped up with a bow. And do you have an idea of how many women you'd like to have in there?
I'd like to keep it small. So it would be like an under 50, not like a super large one where you get lost, because I really think if you're looking to make a big life change, you want to have, people that can know you and really give you that personal advice, and insight rather than just get lost with hundreds.
Okay. Awesome. So around 50, and you are outlining it right now. Is that?
I am. My goal is for possibly by the summer I'll have that, but we'll see. That's just, that's something that I'm working on currently, but we'll see.
Okay. Awesome. That's a very clear 2023 manifestation.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. Share a little bit of background with us and then we'll dive into, what you're offering the world and then any stuck points you have so we can help you out. Tell us your background into business building.
Sure. So I actually started my career as a television producer, and I worked in New York City and Los Angeles for about 16 years. And then I started having a family and decided I needed to pivot. So in doing so, I was really stuck of, what can I use my television experience? How will that translate into something else? And I started to have a family. At that point, I had a 3-year-old and a newborn. And I realized that I could not sustain that kind of lifestyle any longer, just the traveling and the long hours. And so I decided to pivot, but I didn't know how my skills would translate. And I took a couple of wrong turns. I joined a master's program. I took a 9-to-5 job. I was trying to do all the things to provide for my family. And then I just realized I need to produce my own life. I need to do something where I can be in charge. And I bought a franchise business and I ran I still run a Snapology franchise, which is a STEM education business for kids. And I've had that for over 6 years now. And that made me realize that, wow, I can really use my management skills, my working with budgets, my marketing, just everything I did in television, I can now do to grow my business. And then the funniest thing is throughout running that business, other customers would say, you must have been a wonderful teacher. What grades did you teach? And I'd say, oh, I didn't actually. I'm a television producer. And it would spark this conversation. And they'd say, well, how did you go from working with celebrities to working with kids? And can you help me figure out a way to translate what I do into something where I don't have to do that 2-hour commute into New York City? And so it got me thinking, and I started helping some friends figure out how they could transition their careers. And then I launched Second Act Success last year, early 2022. And it's basically my second business now where I can help other women change careers and find something that fits into their current lifestyle.
Wow, what a cool story. I love this so much because to me, what you're doing is highlighting the process of market validation, where the market comes to you asking you for your area of expertise that you might not even have noticed or seen the possibility. And then when they started asking and you're getting those repetitive questions, you're like, wait a second, I can do something with this. And it's in alignment with your zone of genius.
Yes. Yeah. And I just started with a podcast. So I took my producing skills to produce a podcast, which has been really fun to be able to do the recording and editing. And so with my podcast, I started interviewing other women, and I'm going to have you on my show soon, Amanda. So I'm really excited, but just really chatting with other women who have done the pivot, who have changed careers to inspire those women who are listening. So it started with the podcast and then led into career coaching and just helping women in a bunch of different ways to realize that it's okay to change that trajectory of their lives. You start off on one path and it's okay to pivot and go down a different road.
Yeah. I think that's one of the hardest things for people is that pivot point, especially when they're coming from maybe a cush job, something that's paying them pretty well. And they're like, well, am I really going to take the leap into something that's unknown and uncertain? That's a scary point. I often call it the curse of the comfort zone, because when you're so comfortable, it's hard to take action in a different direction that there's unknowns. So I think it's really cool. And I would imagine that those women that were coming to you, they see you as an inspiration. They're like, oh my God, she did it. That means I can do it too.
Right. Especially because I did not have business experience prior to this. So the fact that I grew my business, I'm in the top 3 of all of the Snapology franchises. So that's like over 100 or so franchises. And, so we're doing really well. I'm providing for my family. My kids can come with me to my classes. So it's just really a lifestyle change, and other people see, wow, you took this with not a lot of actual business experience and you grew it into this thriving business. So yeah. And I think just where I live in New Jersey, it's a really long commute into the city, and a lot of people do it. And it's really hard when you're a mom and you're trying to have this, high profile job. And then you're also trying to get the bus or the train back to pick up your kids from daycare, so it's a lot of juggling.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. So, okay. Just so I understand the outline of your business and everyone here listening and watching does. So you went from, the TV producer world to then the franchise. And the franchise was working with children. And then the women who would come in, or the people who would come in, would see, like, how did you do this pivot? And then you had your podcast to start teaching those individuals. And now you're adding masterminds. Are you working with women already in career transition style coaching?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. So I was working with women before I launched the business. I was working with friends, helping them find new paths. And then when I launched the podcast and Second Act Success, I launched it with the podcast and quickly added coaching. So now I have my one-on-one clients, and I have a course as well that's out. So yeah. So those are my 2 main avenues right now of working, between the podcast, my course, and one-on-one.
Okay. So podcast, course, one-on-one, and then looking to add the masterminds in 2023.
Yes.
Okay. And then also at the same time, you still have your franchise up and running. Okay.
I do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I like to get the full picture.
Absolutely. I have a wonderful team. So they're really just taking over that business, and I'm in and out, but I'm able to really focus on Second Act Success and my clients, which is nice.
Okay. You know what? I want to remind everyone here. One of my AffirMantras in my book is there are millions of ways to make millions of dollars. And I always think about this way of when you're ready to step into entrepreneurship or building your own businesses, there are so many ways to do it. And Shannon is a beautiful example of this, where it's like, hey, I'm choosing to make the pivot from, more of a corporate executive, high level professional world to having your own business. You could do this with network marketing, building a franchise, running your own business online. I mean, we could keep going and going and going. And so I love to have all of these different types of examples of women entrepreneurs who are taking the leap, deciding to do it, and even in multiple ways. It's like, I'm curious for you how long that transition took to go from TV producer. You said that was for 16 years. And then when you took the leap into having your own business, what was that transition time like?
That was actually, I can tell you, that was, I was on maternity leave with my newborn when my show was canceled. So that was kind of the sign I took, like, okay, I could go back and get a TV job or I can transition. So it was about a year and a half. So during that interim time, I took a 9-to-5 office job. I started working towards a master's in education, thinking I wanted to be a teacher. I was really checking all the boxes of what I thought I needed to do to provide for my family and keep my husband happy and, just kind of doing all the things, and realized that none of it was what I wanted to do. And that's when I launched. So that's when I started thinking about opening a business of my own. And then I stumbled upon Snapology and realized they're doing everything that I want to build myself. So I don't know anything about franchises, but I do know that they're going to provide me the support that I need as a brand new business owner. So that's why that was the perfect route for me to jump in and, really align myself with the corporate Snapology team to grow the business. So yeah, within a year and a half, I had a business that I was slowly growing, and it's been wonderful. It really was the boost I needed and the support and structure to really start my first business.
Yeah, I love that route. My husband actually just decided to leave his franchising job to come work with me full time.
Congrats.
I know it's so exciting, and it's interesting because I've gotten to learn a lot about franchising world, and I'm like, oh, this is such a cool, to me, an interim between having your own business and starting it with your own total, just completely your own thing versus having a model that's been proven and successful. And, so I do think about it a lot. Like, I think that's why network marketing gets chosen a lot of times. And franchising, similarly, it's like, hey, you've got a proven model. It works. You're going to teach me the ropes. There's a whole bunch of resources. And so I think it's an amazing way to start getting business experience. And some people go that route their whole business career. And then some people branch off and add other avenues, which I like for you. It sounds like you've created a really great team. And now you can step away and even build another business, which is a really powerful wealth building strategy. So awesome. Like, you are a rock star. I love this.
I'm trying. And you know what? It's because of that franchise that I learned about business and can now use a lot of those skills in my own, separate business. So it's been a win-win going that route.
That's really cool. That's great. Okay. Share with us, what are any stuck points you're having? I mean, you have a lot going on. You've got kids. How old are your kids now?
7 and 10.
7 and 10. Okay. So you've got young kids, you've got a franchise, and also another business. So you're a busy lady. So share some of the things that you feel, maybe stuck points, struggles, places that you would like to fine tune and get more aligned.
Thank you. Yes. It's been with Second Act Success, it's been less than a year. I launched the podcast last April of 2022. I had been working on it, since early 2022. But yeah, it's been less than a year. So I'm still slowly growing. Like I said, I do have, one-on-one clients. I'm definitely trying to get the word out more through the podcast, through social media, to get more clients and really just kind of get my brand out there a little bit more. And I think I'm just stuck a little bit on really just getting people to join the email list so that I can really share all that I'm doing. Because it's, as you know, the podcast is a full-time business in a way. And then you've got, my clients and doing social media and working on my course and trying to grow it even more. So it's just trying to figure out how to get in front of people a little bit better.
Okay. One thing I want to point out, and this is every person listening does this, and it's something I've retrained my brain away from, is using the word trying. And because what it indicates is that there's an internal struggle. And so usually it's like, okay, either we feel insecure about it, we're struggling. And so, whenever I hear people saying that, it usually repetitively when they're talking about what they're doing, I'm like, oh, let's point that out to you so that you can shift your language and start to let go of the unconscious battle that's going on. So it's like saying, because you're building it, right? You're doing it. And so like we get to own that and go, hey, I'm building a podcast. And so what I'm doing now is looking for ways to accelerate my brand and attract people more easily. And just, notice anytime you say the word trying, just drop it from your vocabulary and start to shift in a more empowered direction, because, obviously you're a successful businesswoman and you know what you're doing. And so we go like, hey, I own this. I'm powerful.
Okay. Yeah. So, I didn't even realize I was saying it. So thank you for pointing that out.
Absolutely. And so, okay. With podcast and, you said getting the word out and building your brand, getting more people to join your email list. Right now, what are your current strategies to have them opt into your email list?
Really, it's the podcast. So I have 2 freebies. One that is a like a vision board, kind of a goal setting document, which is great. And I've had quite a few people opt into that. But that's my main one that I promote and talk about on the podcast. I usually talk about it mid-roll of the podcast and urge people to sign up. They get that, and then they're in the list. And then of course on social media. So those are the 2 main ways.
Okay. So you said podcast vision board. Are those 2 separate things?
No, the vision board is my opt-in. So that's my lead magnet. So I talk about that on the podcast. Yep.
Got it. Okay. And then you said 2 freebies. So are you counting the podcast as a freebie, the vision board as a freebie?
No, I have another freebie as well. That's like a second act blueprint. So I have 2 freebies, but the vision board one has played better.
Got it. Okay. Second act blueprint. Okay. I like to, get a full mind of what these things are so that we can see stuck points or help it accelerate and attract people more easily. When you say the vision board is the one that really attracts people, is it, so what you're doing is on the podcast, you're sharing with people, hey, I've got this freebie, go ahead on over to the website, check it out. And then they opt in.
Yes.
Okay. Let's think here. How many do you have podcast coaching? Like, I want to see how that's growing for you. So we can.
Yes, I work with Adam.
Okay. Awesome. Yep. Okay. And so are you using the strategy of having episodes with people coming on in a coaching style situation?
Yes. So actually what I have and what I've had since the beginning is interview style. So I've always had people come on and share their second act success story. However, I've started doing more solo episodes to be more of expert facing, and offering my own advice. So that is something that I'm trying to incorporate now. So now I'm doing 2 episodes a week. And I'm just, I need to ask my clients if they'd be willing to come on for an on-air coaching segment. So I really need to start doing that and implementing that as well.
Okay. Is there anything about it that scares you, or is there a reason you haven't done it yet?
I think I'm just like I feel a little weird asking like, hey, we chat all the time and you're paying me for my time and we're working on you. Can you come and do this? It's just a matter of feeling weird about, I guess, asking for that favor. Okay. So anytime we think we're asking someone for a favor without a win-win exchange, we're going to feel a little bit of guilt around it. Mm-hmm. And so play with, what are the benefits to them of coming on? Can you think of a couple to help you in your mind balance out the benefit to them so that you don't feel the guilt or the fear of asking? Yeah, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, like I wouldn't charge them for that. So that would be an additional session where they're chatting with me. So I guess it really is kind of a win-win for them as well to get that extra session. And it doesn't hurt to ask. Like I know I probably tell my clients the same thing, but like don't take the advice myself. But it's, because I think they'd want to help me as well. They'd want to be on and
absolutely. Do you do them as audio and video or just audio?
Up until now, I've done audio and I'm starting this year with video as well.
Okay. Because one thing I was going to say, and I think about this all the time too, like sometimes having people on to talk about money and business scaling, they're like, oh my God, what if people, like it's scary to show your weak spots. I think it can be vulnerable. And so I had the thought the other day, I was like, what would I do if I was in a business where, we couldn't be promoting their business and it was really powerful for them to have a free session. I had the thought like, well, you could do it audio and anonymous. And so it's like, you don't even say the person's name and it's recorded and you just share. And then, no, it's very unlikely that people are going to know who it is. And then that way, if they want to do a quote unquote favor for you, it's a free session for them, which isn't a favor anymore. It's a win-win, but then you get to broadcast it. But it could be that those sessions are done anonymously if they choose, and audio so that no one can see their face, so that's something to consider.
I love that. I actually love that. And even just not using the name is great too, because there's like, I have one client who would be great, and he's actually a male, and he does not want his corporate job to know that he's working with me and thinking about. So it's been like, so
that makes sense.
I love that. And personally, I love the audio only, and that's why I did that for my podcast. But I know that things are moving towards video. So, but for those, you're right. Those would be great. That's actually a great point.
So I think one of my zones of genius is like coming up with fun ideas that people haven't thought of before. Because in your unique zone of genius, I'm like, oh my God, it could be so fun to have people on that way. And I think especially in your situation, because exactly like you're saying, if they're scared to talk about leaving their job, because I've had this with people before too, they're like, I can't let my employer know, so we've talked about how do you revamp your LinkedIn when you're still at your job, but you're building a business, things like that. And you're in the same situation. So it's like, ooh, you got to be really sensitive about that because you're talking about people's livelihood. It's an important thing. So, I go like, ooh, it'd be fun. You could have them on, do the audio recording, which it sounds like you really enjoy. And then you could even do an episode that's in video for you with the solo cast talking about that session and highlighting the key points that came up. And, still it's just using that conversation in ways that help reach out and resonate with your 5-star people where they're like, oh, I feel that way too. I get it. And so there are multiple ways to do it. I wanted to see if that was something that was interesting to you, because I think you do need to be sensitive sometimes about people's anonymity.
Yes. And I think that's a great idea to come and do a little recap too, because I feel like, and even with our friend Adam, listening to his on-air coaching is just really helpful because, like you said, you're listening to what someone else is asking, the same questions that you would ask.
Totally. And
even another one of my clients, she said she would do it, but she's embarrassed because she has 10 ideas of what she wants to change to, and she hasn't been able to narrow them down. But just saying, hey, don't have to use your name, don't have to use your face. Let's just have a conversation.
Right. Yeah. And then it's really easy to promote. Let's have a power-packed, laser-focused one-on-one session. It's going to be recorded, but you'll be completely anonymous. And it's so unlikely that people will say no to that.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even her situation that I'm thinking of, so many people can relate, right? You think okay, I want to make this big change. I have so many ideas. And she's now narrowed it down to about 2 or 3, which is huge because for the longest time she couldn't. But I think that people will relate to that and they'd want to hear that. And I can talk about it all day long, but as a solo person, but to hear a client actually discuss that with me would be much more powerful.
Well, and it's so cool because then they get to see your coaching skills, and the people that are listening will be like, I want to do that too. And so that's another strategy to build your list. My brain's thinking how do we help you build your list in ways that feel really good? And then of course are attracting your 5-star people to the list.
Yes.
And so I've really noticed with these biz breakdown sessions, I love them because to me, it's creating win-win-wins. You get to highlight your business, and we also we all have stuck points. So it's okay, let's just talk about them openly. I have them too, and so we get to go back and forth. So it helps you, it helps attract people to my audience. It helps me because I absolutely love being in my zone of genius, getting to help people. And so I always think how do you create win-win-wins in ways that are really comfortable for everybody and feel really good? So that could be a fun way. Okay, let's think about more strategies. List-wise, are there ways for you other than through your podcast, let's say to attract people to the podcast, and then you have these maybe anonymous sessions, and then that starts to grow as well. What are you promoting any opt-ins any other ways than just through your podcast?
I am. Well, I have banners on the website. So on my website, I have banners pretty much on the top of every page that say sign up. I try to promote it through just my regular social posts. I've been guesting a lot on other podcasts that have been asking me to come on for career advice. And I just learned this recently to do a landing page for each website that I guest on, that it kind of says secondactsuccess.co/ whatever the podcast is. So then that's bringing those listeners over as well, hoping that they'll, join as well.
Awesome.
I just know that with the podcast, as you might know and have experienced, it's hard to get people off of whatever podcast platform they're on to go online and get off the platform too.
It is interesting. Yeah. One thing I'd say when you said that, I'm like, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about, I don't think about my podcast directly as list building necessarily. I always think about it as client attracting.
Yes.
And I think you're right. It's that piece of when someone's on a podcast, even this cracks me up actually. I'll have people email me. They'll take the time to email me and say, your podcast is changing my life. It's so awesome. Thank you so much for the tips. And I'll be like, will you leave a review? And then they don't. And I'm like, fascinating, and it's because it takes the same amount of time. And I think sometimes people don't know how to leave a review on podcasts. It's kind of hard to leave a review you have to go through iTunes. And, it's interesting that way. If you do a Google review, it's a totally different link. So it's kind of that same idea of getting people off to get onto an opt-in is also a different thing. I would say, I'm thinking about other than just the vision board, could you think of one other strategy that you could create something that attracts people? Well, let's ask this. Do you track your conversion rate on the website for that opt-in for the vision board and for the second act blueprint?
No, but I should.
Okay.
I have to get better at my stats and data.
Okay.
I have a very small email list, so I definitely need to work on that this year and growing it.
Yeah.
But the open rate for those that I do have is pretty good. I'm at I think 46%.
That's great.
Rate.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think I'm happy with that, even though it's small. But so obviously, what I'm putting in the newsletter is providing some value.
Okay. I want to say this too, because I think it's really important to say, and for everyone listening, really, you're doing awesome. You are killing it. I mean, it sounds like you're consistent with releasing podcasts. You are attracting people. You have clients. You're looking at the next step of the layer, which is, one-to-one and then one-to-few and then one-to-many. So that's the one-on-one to masterminds. And then you'll keep expanding. Podcast is an incredible way to attract people to your community. So I want to just keep you encouraged and say you're absolutely on the right track. These are the things where people start to go, it's not happening fast enough. And then they pivot and have shiny object syndrome. So stay on course. And I'll say this too, because I'm 5th year in business and I did exactly what you're doing. That's the exact process I took. And it just keeps accelerating and growing, especially when you stay consistent and reliable, because then people go oh, Amanda's always there for me. I might pivot names of programs or something, but I'm still here for you. Right. And I've been, it's my overarching theme through the whole time has been my mindset, alignment, habits, making money, that kind of thing. And so, second act success. I mean, when I look at your website, and so for those of you who are on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. I mean, her website is killer. She is, it looks professional. It draws you in quickly. Great colors. At the top, the headline says, searching for a career change. Your second act starts today, which is so fun because it's in alignment with your zone of genius. It brings together all the things that you've created in your history that are now coming together in this business, really sharing your wealth of knowledge with people through your history of working with actors, right? So it's secondactsuccess.co is her website. It's really awesome. And then if you want to connect with Shannon on Instagram, it's also Second Act Success. So for me, I would say I see incredible brand alignment here, really clear messaging, and really it sounds to me like it's a time thing. Just stay in it. And you're built you're doing all the right things.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes me feel better. I think it's having that other business that's so much further along, but it's 6.5 years.
Exactly.
Along. So,
And I want to remind everyone of this. This is so important. I think about this a lot where I'm like, wow, what in year 2, year 3, year 4, I'm in my 5th year of business now. And I look back and I'm like, thank God I took the time, or I like to say, thank Goddess for all the ladies. Thank Goddess. I took the time to stay consistent, go through the roller coaster ride. I love the spiral curve of growth. It's never a straight line curve. And you just go like, oh, when I look back, like where I am today versus where I was then is different than where I thought it would be. And also like, oh, the really important thing that you're doing is taking time to build your brand. And I mean, you're just killing it. So I just want you to stay encouraged.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it means a lot.
You're welcome. And like the fact that you have a podcast, I would say that I've sometimes said 100% of my revenue has come from my podcast. And the reason I say that is because it's created so many opportunities for me with joint ventures. And just like you're saying, getting on other people's platforms and podcasts and talking and sharing with their communities. And then you build this network of friendships and you build joint ventures and you attract people to the podcast and they get to know, love, and trust you over time because, through podcasting, they get to binge listen. And so, you're doing awesome. And so I would say for everyone watching or listening, check Shannon's business out because she's really modeling in her very first year of business, a really powerful model to follow. So I want to remind everyone of that first. I would love to know, I always love to make sure that you're getting value from being here with me on a Biz Breakdown session. What's an action step you're going to take after our time together?
There's so much. Definitely the number one thing will be to be more proud and strong of what it is that I am building and not say trying and just really to stand, in solidarity with myself and keep going and knowing that I'm doing big things and it will all evolve in time. So Thank you for that encouragement. It means so much from you.
You're so welcome. And yeah, that's, everyone here, remind yourself on a daily basis how awesome you are. Like seriously, like you're a powerful woman in the world being a model for your kids, the people you attract into your business. You have a podcast that's free information out in the world that's incredibly valuable. You're sharing your wealth of wisdom. And so just remind yourself of that. And then coming from that heart space, it's like, that's what attracts people to you ultimately. I'm always about energetic alignment. And when you're aligned, your business will grow. So a really fun AffirMantra to use here is just, my success is inevitable. My success is inevitable. Right. And it's just keep playing with that. I love that. And then, I would love to hear if you do test out the anonymous podcast episodes to see if that's something that works well. I think a lot of people could benefit from that model of doing podcasting. And I know video is a really important wave of the future, but you could do the solo cast video and then the guest client ones as anonymous.
No, that's the biggest takeaway, I should say, on top of just being positive, is absolutely to do that because that was something that I was struggling with, that anonymity.
That's a hard word.
Yes, but no, that's exactly what I was kind of struggling with. So fantastic. That's fantastic advice. I will definitely implement.
Awesome. Great. I'm so glad that we could highlight your business and bring you some good tips. So go ahead and share with everyone who you're looking for and where to go to find you.
Sure. So if you are just kind of feeling stuck and interested in possibly thinking about changing a career path or starting a business, I would just love to help you. So you can go to secondactsuccess.co and you'll get all the information for my podcast, which is Second Act Success, blogs, advice, how to work with me on one-on-one coaching, my course, all of that.
Awesome. And then I definitely, if you are in the position of thinking about shifting from your job to building a business and you're looking for the Second Act Success, listen to her podcast and also opt into her list because then you will know about her one-on-one, you'll know about her podcast releases, episode releases, and you'll also get the vision board and you'll know about when she does her mastermind in the future. So, this is something I want to remind everyone when you're listening to people's podcasts consistently, make sure that you give them a shout out somewhere, either on social media or by leaving a review. It could be, sometimes reviews are amazing just on your own Instagram page, right? Like you do a shout out, take a screenshot of the podcast and then share a tip that you got. That helps to create that win-win vibe. So Second Act Success podcast, obviously you can also do this for the Woman Entrepreneur podcast. And just remember, we put our hearts and souls and time and money and energy into this. And the only way we know to what you're getting out of it and what you love about it is to get some feedback from you. And so just, give us some shout outs. Second Act Success Podcast, the Woman Entrepreneur Podcast. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your journey with us, Shannon. I'm sure it was helpful for lots of the ladies listening today.
I hope so. Thank you so much, Amanda. This was wonderful.
Awesome. You're welcome. And for all you beautiful ladies out there, remember that if you want to come on and hang out with me on the Women Entrepreneur Podcast, just go to thewomanentrepreneurpodcast.com and you'll see a button at the top of the page that says Get Your Biz Breakdown Session, and you can schedule there and come hang out with me. We'll highlight your business and give you any tips that could be helpful to have you scale your business faster. Until next time, I'm giving you big hugs and NFA money-making high fives.